guys. What a dud. What a dud it was. What a dud it was. And we can now say in the past tense, and we are not wrong to say in the past tense, the Tokyo Olympics. Our lead this hour coming from the Tokyo Olympics. The curtain coming down. The closing ceremonies of the Olympic Games on Sunday. And now we can look at the numbers and go, what happened? Where did everyone go? NBC. They saw record low ratings throughout the 2020 Olympic Games, which were played, of course, time shifted, delayed because of COVID to 2021. And so because of this, NBC had to give advertisers extra airtime to make up for the loss in eyeballs. And again, where did everyone go? If you have not heard about this, maybe not. Since the Olympics opening ceremony back on July 23rd, a sliver of the U.S. audience has tuned in for the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. That people just did not come back. The audience did not come back. This is not a case of if you build it, they will come. They built it, and the audience did not come. The viewership has remained low throughout all 17 days of competition. Now, for some points of reference, last Sunday, NBC prime time, their audience was down 51%. Down 51% from the same point at the Rio Games in 2016. Now, as a result, as we said, NBC has been hustling to try to schedule make goods. That's extra commercial time to make the advertisers not as upset. They paid a high premium rate to get a certain amount of people they were guaranteed were going to be watching, and that has not been the case. Record low ratings. Now, the Peacock mouthpieces have been trying to spin this particular story, these ratings Armageddon, with positive statements. It's not working. It is not working. So let us discuss the question, very simple. Why did the American television viewer reject the Tokyo Olympics, leaving them with these historically bad ratings? So the answer, it's complicated. It is complicated, but we'll try to make it as simple as possible. You've got Sir Isaac Newton, price tag, and broken promises. And we'll put all these together into the pot, and we'll cook it on the stove for about 10 minutes and see what happens. Now, listen, the ratings are a direct reflection of the general attitude, or should I say apathy, that many people have for the athletes right now representing the United States. And while many competitors were proud to represent America, they were overshadowed by angry activists who are masquerading as athletes. And if you think that is not a factor, then you are a big dummy. The Olympics, my entire life, have always been about one thing more than anything else: patriotism, love of country, known as the Olympic spirit. That's what they call it. Wrap yourself in the flag. And you might say that's hokey and that's corny and that's not right. What about this, that, and the other protest? I'm just telling you the facts. And if you can't handle the facts, you've got to deal with that and figure it out on your own accord there. But many of the athletes in these games representing America would have preferred, rather than wrap themselves in the flag, they would have liked to have burned the flag. And it started at the Olympic qualifying events. Someone named Gwyn Berry turned her back on the flag as the national anthem played. You had the women's U.S. Olympic basketball team pretending like they were doing us all a favor by standing up during the national anthem. These are the same women during the WNBA season, not that anyone watches the WNBA, but during that season, we are told that they do everything in their power to avoid being anywhere near the court during the anthem because they are virtue signaling, protesting whatever the cause of the day is there, or political gripes or whatever it might be. So it's like, well, we're doing you a favor because it's the Olympics. Well, no, you're not doing us a favor. Even Greg Popovich, who said, well, he served in the Air Force, Greg Popovich, but he's made some really fiery statements, divisive comments about America being systemically racist and all that from Greg Popovich. Only one U.S. women's soccer player, Carly Lloyd, stood before the bronze medal game. She was the only one. The rest of the social justice warrior soccer players there, led by Megan Rapinoe, took a knee as that began. So it reminds you here of the reaction to all of these things, and there were other examples as well. It's the great line that is credited to Sir Isaac Newton, right? The laws of motion. For every action, you have an equal and opposite reaction. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And so you're getting that with people not watching. And it's not the hardo sports fan. People say, well, it's a hardo sport. No, the Olympics appeal to the non-sports fan. And even the non-sports fan is not as into it and did not watch as much. Now, part B of this, after the ratings got off to a sluggish start, there were some people that were very optimistic, saying that things would improve as the event progressed, that the Olympics build up to a crescendo, and it's all about the track and field, right? That's what they all say. The track and field's the big thing, and gymnastics, and those things happen later on in the Olympics. Well, that turned out to be fake news. Like other made-for-TV sporting events, there has been a direct decline. As we said, this is not so much about the sports fan. This is just in general. The viewership, since this protesting started in sports and became hip, and the media likes it and loves it and encourages it, the virtue signaling, there is an expensive price tag to it, and it's the loss of viewership. Many are no longer proud, it would appear, to be selected by their country to compete. Instead, they're out there and you're making it all about them with their protest of the day, and the backlash has been real. And it's one of these things that it is a factor. Now we can debate how big a factor it is, but it is absolutely a factor here. And take the temperature in the room. There was a recent survey done leading into the Olympics that said 36% reported less interest in the Olympics than usual. 41% of respondents had no interest in watching the game. So right off the top, 41% not interested, compared to just 16% that said they had a lot of interest. And based on the ratings debacle, those numbers were not wrong. They were not wrong at all. That was not an idle threat. There were no idle threats made. They said they weren't interested, and they backed it up by not watching. They stayed away, and that created a ratings decline, a massive decline. How bad was it? I'll give you some more numbers. During the first week of the Tokyo Olympics, typically the most watched, the ratings were down nearly 60%. You lost more than half your audience the first week. But wait, there's more. Go back to Wednesday. The NBC Olympic telecast set an all-time low of 14.6 million people watching. It seems like a lot of people, but when you do the math on this, it's not that many compared to years past. And then on Thursday night, the very next night, they broke the record that they had previously broken 24 hours prior. So they set a new all-time low of 13.3 million. Now, the United States, give or take, depending on the day, there's 330-something million people that are in the United States. So the math on that is less than 5%. And we saw a 42% drop from the Rio Summer Games in 2016 on Thursday. Wednesday was a 34% decline. Now, the ratings include the numbers. This is not just a traditional NBC property. This is including all of the streaming. This is including the Peacock network, which people have panned and said how bad that is. That includes all of that. So it's not just a terrestrial television situation here, traditional television. This is all of it. So these are the events that are not designed for the hardcore sports fan. And even the casual non-sports fan has not embraced this Olympics. And now the Olympics are over. And until, 3 years from now when they're back. Now, the last word here. There is nothing, I know this from working in broadcasting, there's nothing broadcast companies loathe more than having to give away make goods. They despise this. You don't want to give away free product. You don't want to do it. Those freebies are a way to make up for what? Broken promises. You promised if you pay X amount of dollars, you will be given this amount of audience. And it didn't happen. Now, the media critics who are living in a parallel universe, they claim that the ratings are not down because of the wokesters who spit loogies at the patriotism angle of the Olympics. The other side of the aisle, they're blaming NBC for their poor coverage of the Olympics, and it was helter-skelter. Well, I don't think it was any different. NBC's always broadcasted all over the place. I don't think it was any different this year than in years past. Not that I'm a big Olympic guy. We also hear that the time difference was a poison pill, that these games being played in Tokyo were, heck, it was on during our show. And nothing good is supposed to happen while we're on the radio in the wee hours of the morning. And while that cannot be dismissed as a factor, it is not the only factor, and we can debate what the biggest factor is. I would say it is not enough, just the time zone thing, to account for the pin going into the balloon and pop, go the ratings. So there's a lot of variables to this, but you have to include the anti-American rhetoric from so many athletes who are getting all the attention. You know, it's hip. You virtual signal. The media loves you, and they make you a hero. They put you on a pedestal. But there is a price to pay, right? There is a price to pay for that, and the ratings have been horrific for these Olympics.